Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to the Asia InsurTech podcast. We are joined today by Jasmin Flori-Hess, the founder and CEO at Raindrop. Jasmin, thank you so much for coming to the show. Before we get into the main part of this conversation, let's give our audience a little bit of your background for some context, please.
Well, thank you, Michael, for having me, first of all. It's a very big pleasure for myself and the entire team. Super opportunity. So about myself, as you can probably guess, my accent is not Australian. I was born and raised in Switzerland, and the last 20 years lived in Australia. My background is, consequently, as you would guess again, in banking. It's coming from Switzerland and as well in medtech. So by trade, I studied corporate communication and was mainly in process and project management, active in banking and medtech. And so it has always been a pleasure of mine, and I was very keen to find solutions, to find ways to make things faster, better, more efficient, friendlier. And you could say I'm super keen on the customer service, right? So that is really always at my core. And yeah, so that is, my heart was always there in my professional endeavors. And now I'm in InsurTech.
What gets you, what happened to you? What kind of personal experience inspired you to found Raindrop? And how did you identify the specific gap that you wanted to fill in the market?
Well, it was back in 2021 when we planned a family sabbatical to go out bush in Australia, going camping with 2 kids, really off grid. And my Swiss genetics came through. We are known to be over-insured, and I wanted to know what happens if a snake bites us while we sleep, when a crocodile gets more of the fishing rods than we should, and, snorkeling with sharks. So I went into a rabbit hole and read 7 policies back to back and did a matrix analysis. It took me 15 hours. And I was thinking, this is crazy. I feel I'm really well educated, been working with legal documents my entire professional life. And how can this be so hard? How could it be to take that long? And I went to a friend of mine who is a broker and another one who has been for years in reinsurance. And yes, we all work with Excel sheets. It is that hard. So I went into another mate of mine who is very much into startups. And it's well, you must know which startup offers a solution where you can pretty much click at the logos and it spits out all the simplicity that you actually need to make a decision. And he said, no, he doesn't know anyone in America or Asia yet. And why don't you do this? And I laughed. I'm like, oh, you're crazy. I'm a corporate person, have nothing to do with insurance or technology. Why should I? And then, well, you go, you do sabbatical, you get away from your daily chores and to-do lists and think about it. And it was actually there during that trip, being away from the daily grind, that I slowly put into place as a little business plan. And so how could I do this? With whom would I have to talk? What do I need to do? And fully aware that, and I'm very transparent about it. I'm not from insurance. I'm not from technology, but I felt the pain. And I have that urge to really find a solution for this pain. And I have that outside lens that I feel privileged to have, right? I question the status quo. Why do you just accept an Excel list if we can do it better? And that's really what gets me going and gets me out of bed in the morning. And, been working on it since, many years now. It's coming up to 3 years, so 2 years we incorporated, and it's really fun. We are doing it.
When you look back on that trip, right, and the original business plan that you started to make and the ideas that you had around, I need to solve this problem, right? People need to have a better way of understanding exactly what these policies mean without having to spend 15 hours to do it. Yeah. What are some of the things that in the past 3 years that you've learned where you thought okay, I wanted to do it this way, but I decided instead to do it this way was probably better? Do you know what I mean?
Whomever I spoke, it was a customer need, right? For myself, I felt it. Everyone else said, yes, I totally get it. I never read the T&Cs or the PDSs. And I thought that's actually dangerous. that people don't care enough because it's so complex. But I then realized, people won't pay. And the real problem is that even brokers, who are the ones that are honest about this, right? They're like, yes, for us, it's a struggle too. The ever-changing documents are a struggle to keep on top of them. And that is why we went then from B2C to B2B and did our MVP with the first collaboration with a broker that said, I really like to know more and understand the cyber policies here in Australia. So that was our MVP last year. And this is where we started our data pipeline and going through now other line of businesses.
Tell me again, why did you move from B2C to B2B?
Because we understood the actual pain point are as well the brokers, right? They feel that pain point too. It's not just customers. The brokers really need a core product, an enabler, a tool they can trust and they can utilize, and that they get more time to speak with customers. The customer themselves don't read through it. They trust the broker, and the broker need to have that tool.
Is there this idea that the policy documents need to be, I don't want to say complicated, but they are a bit complicated, right? I mean, I remember when I bought my first personal health insurance 2 or 3 years ago, right? Because I'd been working at big companies at Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs for my whole life. So like, I didn't have to read through the policies. I just kind of clicked some boxes that human resources asked me to click, and then they just paid for my insurance, right? So I kind of, as you said, just trusted that it would work. But when I got my own insurance, I literally had to go through like a ton of it. But there has to be this balance between the regulatory necessity, right, to actually spell out everything in the policy so that it's clear and documented. And then the flip side of, I just want to transparently understand what's in there so that I know what my coverage is. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that is very much so true. And I think every customer deserves that as well. And most brokers are here to do exactly that work. So that is what we believe is what we're helping the most. It's the very intuitive platform where you see immediately, is it in or not? Is it included or excluded? Is it covered or not? And you can go deep dive then with Raindrop. We have as well a bot where you can use as a body to keep asking questions. And that is exactly our USP, because it's trained on only policy wordings.
Interesting. I want to dig deeper into that in a second, but just from a higher level, the mission here, right, is to just redefine trust and transparency, right? That's like the whole overall mission. But then how do you take that in the context of what we're just talking about, right, with the regulatory requirements to have but complicated documents? How do you translate that into the products and services, right? So how are you working together with the brokers to say, what do we really need from an output perspective so that when you talk to your clients, they actually understand what's going on?
So when we initially speak to our customers, which are, at the beginning, our persona and the business plan were brokers, definitely. And then I can come back to where we're at now. Who is using it now is actually really interesting progress on our journey. So our mission is we are the insurance distiller. So everyone knows the insurance policy are really complex, vast documents. So we take them, we transform them in complexity and take them into pure each raindrop, as we call it. It's clear. It gives you clarity. You can understand it. It clears the air. So we help and enable insurance professionals. That's what we call our customers, not only brokers, to navigate with confidence and clarity throughout these complex policies. And, it's deeply webbed taxonomy, and the nuances make it so tricky, right? The terminologies and nuances in insurance are very hard to follow and understand on a quick basis. So, that is where we went first to our brokers. And then as we launched our MVP and then let early adopters help us build further features, we found out that carriers started to enjoy using it for product development, because the knowledge that we give back to the industry is significant. Then now the latest, development that we see is that claims manager use Raindrop to as well make the call and look further into. So I'm open. I talk to anyone. Anyone can use it. There's no limit. We feel like, it is for the future thinking insurance professionals that like to use technology they can trust.
Do you think that prior to the Raindrop product, some brokers and professionals themselves were already a bit uncomfortable giving explanations because they felt like maybe they weren't 100% sure either what was in their documentation? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I can't comment on that. I can only assume. So yes, I would say so. It is almost humanly impossible to be on top of 200 pages when they get, especially during COVID, there were so many new policies getting pumped out of the carriers. It must have been hard. And there we see as well Raindrop as an enabler and as really supportive tool, because we can as well look, what's the policy 22 compared to the 25 policy? We can show these differences too. So, even for that reason, when it comes to a renewal, you can look, okay, my client has this policy. What do I tell him in a nutshell is different.
In 2021, when you first conceptualized this, right, when you went on this little bit of a break, this trip sounds amazing to me, by the way. I need to be able to do this at some point.
Who would have thought what comes out of it, honestly?
Really? When you and your family first decided to take a little bit of break and go on vacation, who knew a startup was going to be born because of it? But good for you on all fronts. But back then in 2021, when you're writing your business plan, ChatGPT had not been released to the world. So even if you were looking forward or you were well connected to the artificial intelligence world, you probably weren't thinking about how can I use generative AI to do this?
Which we don't.
So I'm just curious, how do you do it? And is there a role for AI to play in some of this? And if there is, what do you think it is going forward, right? Because I run my own business as well. And before generative AI was there, it was much harder to do some of the stuff that I do on a regular day-to-day basis. So I switched as well. And I'm just curious, what this looks like to you and your team.
Yeah. So, we started as really seeing it, the problem as complex data needs to become structured data. And that is really based on actuarial and data science principles. And that is what we see ourselves as well. Yes, we have AI components in our solution, but it really is a pipeline of data science. That's how our CTO always speaks about it. And our AI, what for us and what the users love the most is, the bot, Neptune, which is the king of the sea that captures all those raindrops of clarity. Raindrop he is phenomenal body because you can trust him. He doesn't hallucinate like generic, available, very convincing solutions that are on the market. It is really comforting to know for a broker who is maybe worried about his own professional indemnity, using publicly available generic AI, because that is a danger and it's quite tricky to navigate this. And so we built the first insurance AI model and really trained on the documents only. So that is what we changed from 21 to now 25. We make sure that it's solely trained with the policy documents as a basis, not the internet.
Yeah, no, I mean, you couldn't do it. So this is something that I actually started talking about back in 2000, I think the end of 2022, when ChatGPT was released to the world. And I was like, there's so much information out there that's irrelevant for individual companies and for even large product niches, that to mix everything else up in between it would make it a mess and really hard to use. And I always thought, and you're confirming this, right? Actually, maybe for the first time, I want to have a really targeted learning here, right? I just want to get trained on just these policy documents. And I presume every time a new policy gets written, it's trained on that document as well.
Yes.
Right. So that it's up to date all the time.
Yeah.
And I guess part of the reason here is for the explainability. Maybe you can talk a little bit about why it's important to be able to explain to people what artificial intelligence is doing, and then how do you balance those AI-driven decisions with the need for transparency?
Yeah, so I think that is our core, and that's how we see ourselves as an enabler. And actually, we build a community because everyone needs to be educated that AI is great and it's really helpful, but it needs to be accountable. It needs to be reliable and explainable. And we build constantly our machine is learning on a daily basis. So our AI model gets verified by the peers, by insurance professionals, and we also make sure it's unbiased. So we are an independent platform. We're not putting any biases into our model, and we make sure, that our users understand AI is smart, but not really as smart as a human. So we always will need the human who makes sure the AI is correct. It's not magic. That's our internal catchphrase. It's not magic. It's a lot of hard work. And if you ask Neptune what is freaking with cyber, right? It goes back and goes through 14 documents that we have currently available in cyber insurances in Australia and gives you 3-sentence answer in plain English. And we can, if a customer wants to, at the moment, because it's overwhelming, but we can actually show these are the lines from these and these documents where he gets the answer from. So, and that's explainable, right? It's not just somewhere, sounds really good, but can I trust it? Should I tell it to my customer? Is it a risk? Right. So,
yeah, I mean, one of the big models, I think this is a French company. I don't know off the top of my head, but Perplexity, right, started doing this a couple of years ago, where if you asked it a question, it would not just give you the answer, but tell you where the answer came from, which gave you a lot more confidence. I think it's the same thing in the policy space here.
Yeah,
right. Absolutely. If I know that it's coming out of page 4, then I can at least go look at it if I want to as well. So
that's in our backlog. So we build every 2 weeks a new feature, and that X-ray view that we call it is in the backlog to be developed in the near future, because that's the way to trust AI, only like that. And that's what we have to educate users and humans. Humans need to know it's great to use generative AI, but you need to know for when and what, and when you challenge it and how you can challenge it, and just don't take everything for bare gold.
I've said this for years, right? But I don't think your relationship to technology or with technology should be any different than your relationship with your friends and family, in the sense that if one of your kids comes to you and says, like, the sky is purple, you're just like, where did you get that from? Yeah. Right? You want to have some sort of validation and verification. And I don't think that just because there's a computer chip behind it, you don't want to have it validated that for some reason you're right. It's not magic, and it's not necessarily true either. So tell me why. And that's the explainability part, which I think is super important.
Yeah. And it has a lot to do with trust. I think at the moment, with all this offering, the issues grow faster than the success stories, I find currently. And it's sad, because that bubble seems to burst very soon if we go into that direction. And, being from Europe, I really observed the AI Act of Code in Europe, because that's the leading standard. As you said, they had that years ago. And that's how we built that. Steve, our CTO, has been doing this for 20 years. He said, like, it is not new. No, it is not. So this is how our foundation is built on. And because that trust brings you further, it's not only AI, but, into insurance, you need to find trust more again. And that's where we see us as the binding element between, the customer, broker, and the carrier. That triangle seems to like drifting apart. And, based on, there's the complexity of the insurance product might be one, and, and we just really want to bring them further back together to enable with simple English answers and quick overviews.
It doesn't need to be that hard, right? To be fair.
No. People feel confused and misled, and that's really sad, because it's one of the most important industry there is, right? Because you never make that call when it's a happy moment. It's in the saddest moments of your life, as we all know. And I just really, that drives me. I want people to get more yes and know when they purchase and policy that they will get a yes when they make that call, and not just like, oh, well, I give you the go. That can't be right.
I mean, to be fair, I still think about it. Like I said to you earlier, I don't know what's 100% covered in my insurance policy. And sometimes I think, should I go get this thing looked at, or is, never mind, I'll just go to the gym instead. One of the things you said, or two of the things you said at the beginning was, you're not from the insurance and you're also not a technologist, but you're running an InsurTech. So it's a little bit of an oxymoron at some level.
And
but in the 3 or 4 years, but in the 3 or 4 years you've been doing this, you must have learned a ton about insurance and also a ton about technology, because even just now, you were just talking like you were a technologist. we throw out a new feature every 2 weeks. Like you must be deeply involved in this stuff. So maybe you can run me through just like what were some of the challenges about learning about insurance, but also learning about technology, and then where those two things fit together.
Yes, you're very true. I mean, that's what I say. Like, this experience to be a founder of InsurTech has been phenomenal for me personally, because exponential growth, and it's exhausting. And that's why I live in Darwin and like to go outside into nature and find my energy again. So insurance is really interesting. So, as I said, banking is a similar sector. It's a service-oriented sector. So that part I really got. But, the different elements from, MGAs, carriers, representatives, and so on.
Capacity,
the list goes on.
Stuff.
And it was really hard to comprehend, but why? But that's exactly what makes it good for me, right? I ask, but why? But who is this? And I have a really good system of advisory board members and phenomenal network of very supportive, knowledgeable, experienced people that I dare to ask as well. I think that's one thing. I never feel ashamed to ask, and more importantly, listen and take notes, because I forget a lot at the moment. There's so much learning. So I write down a lot of, I write down a lot of my learnings. And same with technology. I learned enormous amount of, on agile development, the continuous development, the multi-cloud building, what we do, and AI and whatnot. It's been phenomenal. And I love it. I find it really interesting, and it opens a whole new horizon to me. And so I've been enjoying the ride just out of a learning experience.
I was going to say, I mean, the thing that struck me at the beginning of this recording was you said you read 7 policies back to back. Regular people don't do that. More now, for sure. I mean, a regular person doesn't do that. And that is the form of a highest compliment for me, right, when I say that. But what it is, it's indicative of the way you approach things. I don't just want to know it on the surface.
Yeah.
I really want to understand how this works, and I'm going to do the hard work to make sure that I do understand it. And you're probably applying that to everything else that you do.
I go into rabbit holes quite frequently, but I think I want to understand it, and we're a very small team, and I have to understand it. And I expect that as well for myself and my entourage and my team.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm running a small business as well.
Yeah.
And we want to grow as much as you do. And there's so many things that I've learned in the past 4 or 5 years that I never even considered knowing about. And like you, it's exhausting, but it's also exhilarating at the same time. I'm like, I can't believe I know that. Yeah. And I'm so happy about it. And yeah, you're right. My way of manifesting this, you want to go outside into nature, is I go for a run, right? Yeah. And I live in a big city, so fair enough. But it's the same idea of, okay, my brain needs a little bit of a break. I need to go outside.
And that's exactly it. As a founder, as I said, I've never had a company. This is all new. This is, it goes down to all different hats I wear, from accounting to legal, HR, you name it.
I love it.
So, as you know as well, and that's exciting too, but you need to know as well, when is your limit and how does it look like?
Yeah.
To go back and, recharge and ground yourself again and go hard after the next goal. I think that's why it's good we have those sprints. You can't always go. And you need to have a little reboot or refresh.
You know, the other thing that I've learned, and I'm so happy that I started a company much later in life, right? Because I was so much more self-aware.
Yeah.
I'm not the CEO of my own company. And the reason why is because I know I'm not going to be good at it. I'm not the right person to be the CEO. And my co-founder is half my age. And I was like, you're in charge, because he's just way better at that than I am. And then I'm freed up to do all the stuff that I'm really good at.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's a great thing. You mentioned something about bias earlier, and we didn't get a lot of time to talk about it, if you don't mind, because I don't think bias can be 100% eliminated, because all of us have them.
Yeah.
But it's like one of my engineering friends said to me a long time ago. An engineer's job is to minimize noise and to identify signals, right, and to amplify signals. And I think that bias is the same thing. You want to minimize bias and amplify the things that come out of that minimization. But how do you do that, and why is it important in the insurance industry to make sure that bias is as minimal as possible?
I can speak only at the moment for Australia and a little bit of Switzerland. But as I look around, it's often, competitors, like comparison pages, if you would say so, they often are backed by carriers and they push through their policies, right? So there is the first bias that we try to eliminate. When we raised money, we made sure no money is coming from an insurance carrier or affiliate, that we don't feel obliged to have, I don't know, policy XYZ at the beginning, that we just have some business rules. It's alphabetical. We don't give anyone any privilege or show them in a better way than they are. So that is one bias that we try to make sure we don't have that, because you are someone who gives you money, you feel,
obligated in a way.
That is just. The other way is the way we build our data pipeline. As I said, so we make sure everything is with the same business rules and quality checks done and checked by human experts from the industry.
Got it. Okay. Before I let you go, and this has been really a great conversation, my bet is that you'd be surprised for how long we've actually been recording already. I dare you to check the time.
Yeah.
The female founders in tech and insurance industries is just rare, right? It's just rare. Have there been unique challenges and opportunities that you've encountered just because you are a female entrepreneur?
I personally haven't felt. Oh, I had one incident. Yes, I had one incident. But to be honest, I think it's not a female founder thing. It's more, I think also personal, you need to question a lot. You need to dare to go out and network. I think it's a personality thing. The female founder in a tech startup was, when I had a presentation and I was the only female CEO, everyone else was male. And one comment was made, because we know technology. And I just had to sure, yeah. Exactly. That's I can't even take it serious. At first, are you for real? And I think my face pretty much says what I think. I'm not a poker. So I think everyone would have seen, because I was still there, that I was not impressed. I was like, what? Did I just hear that? But, I think that's the only thing. But that happens anywhere. And that's not only, that happened to me in banking, in medtech. Sometimes if you're a strong, articulated woman, you get some feedback and that's all right. But I honestly had really good experiences to fundraise, to find people, to get support from the industry. That's been phenomenal. And I don't think it's because I'm a female. It's just because the solution makes sense and the technology speaks for itself.
Actually, I want to ask you one more thing. I know I said that was the last thing, but something just popped into my mind.
It's a pleasure. No way.
Please. You recently traveled outside of Australia.
Yeah.
Right? And you did mention that, I asked you a question before and you said, I just want to focus on Australia and Switzerland because that's basically where we're focused on. But your last trip, at least that I know of, was to the United States.
Yes.
So how global do you think this solution is going to get? What was the reason for the trip to the US? How are things going in that direction?
Yes. So I've been in Singapore lately for an Asia Pac conference, and now to America just to see where other countries are. I always like to understand where is the competition, what's being built, who are the key players that we could collaborate, that we could, understand from each other, help. Because at the end, we should, as an industry, I don't think in silos. I think we should collaborate and make partnerships and get this forward as fast as possible. Yeah, I went to New York to see what's happening there. And it's been really interesting to have a lot of conversations and see where things at. And there's been quite a bit of need and requests coming from both conferences I've been. So Vietnam, Indonesia, Sri Lanka approached me to bring Raindrop available to their country, and I had an initial conversation as well with a very big broker company in America that is very interested too. So, and the thing is how we build multi-cloud scalable, and that is we're ready. We just have to get the right collaborators, and
Okay, I'm going to thank you for doing this. Jasmin Flori-Hess, the founder and CEO at Raindrop. You were amazing, and I cannot wait to get this published. I really want people to hear this. Thank you again so much.
Thank you so much for having me.